There we go. Share screen. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. So we are continuing the roundtable concept that we started with last summer. I guess it's been about a year when we were looking at how we were gonna feed kids during the pandemic, and kind of everything was up in the air. And I think we're kind of meeting a new crisis head on here, and this is sort of where the genesis of this conversation has come from. Is the discussions I'm hearing from directors and folks almost every single day at this point. This labor seems to come up. So I thought it'd be valuable to get folks together, use the group think approach, and see if we can't find some solutions to really help some folks who are in dire straits right now. So that being said, I've become a big fan of kind of creating a mission statement for a lot of these meetings, so that way we can kind of have a sense of what we're working on and the direction that we're working together on with that. So for this roundtable, I really thought it'd be important to, again, utilize the incredible power of the combined intellect, creativity, and passion found within school nutrition to solve the immediate and looming labor crisis plaguing the efforts of local school nutrition programs. It's a mouthful. Condensing it down to layman's speak. Let's try to figure out how we can get more folks to step into a school nutrition positions and help work on the front lines to serve our kids. So some quick introductions. Many of you know who I am. Most of you probably know who I am if you're on here. But my name's Corey. I'm the CGA Reps K through 12. CGA Reps is K through 12 specialist. I'm also the Georgia School Nutrition Association's Industry Advisory Board Chairman, as well as Godot's Industry Advisory Council President. But we're also joined by some special guests here. And as I had mentioned before we started recording, Dr. Dotson from the State Department, the State School Nutrition Director for Georgia, should be joining us a little bit later. I know she has a little bit of a schedule conflict, so we expect to see her on the back end of this roundtable. But we're also joined by Emerald Wick from General Mills. She has quite a bit of experience in the K through 12 arena. She served on the Georgia School Nutrition Advisory Council as well. And I think she can add some interesting insight to this discussion as far as what she's seeing and what she's hearing out in the field as well. And then additionally, we're joined by Polly Barrington, who's the Executive Director of the American Culinary Federation. And if the American Culinary Federation doesn't ring a bell for you, it's the ACF, or as we lovingly refer to it as the Chefs Association. I mean, she's the Executive Director of the Atlanta chapter, and the Atlanta chapter, if I don't mind bragging on them a little bit, is one of the largest and if not most important and powerful chapters in all the country. So I'm thankful to be joined by these friends and by these experts of the industry to help kind of guide the conversation discussion as well. So that being said, I really want to kind of lay out the problem and maybe the history of the problem a little bit too, and this will kind of help frame the discussion, I think. So what is the problem? Really, as I see it, and some of the conversations that I've been having, is it's really just difficulty attracting employees to school nutrition, which isn't unique to school nutrition. This is the problem plaguing all of food service right now, hence why we see help wanted signs everywhere, hence why if you go out to eat, it might take an hour and a half to have your meal. Where did it start? Well, it really started at the front of the pandemic as it relates to how we're looking at the problem today. And it kind of really started with the economic relief efforts that went to supporting those folks who were going to be unable to work or lost their jobs during the pandemic or felt unsafe or uncomfortable working during some of the health challenges. And this is the block that I've been on for a while. Many of you have heard me ranting about this, but how is it getting worse? And that may be scary for some of you to hear that it's going to get worse. But the reality is, as folks start coming back to work, there are even more and bigger and dire challenges facing school nutrition, again, in my humble opinion, that basically relate directly to competition. Competition for the same workforce that you're trying to pull from is larger and greater than it's ever been. You have folks offering $15, $16 an hour for very entry-level positions. I'm going to show you a few examples here in a moment. You have signing bonuses. You have folks with deeper pockets than what many school nutrition programs have as it relates to paying employees. So it's really going to put some strain and some challenges on attracting employees, but then also attracting the right employees as well. So just kind of finishing that with how long will this last? Well, the bad news is we might be looking at this for a while, and maybe some pretty strong permanent shifts from this. So I don't know, many of you may be familiar with Buc-ee's. It's a gas station chain originated out of Texas. If you've never seen a Buc-ee's, imagine a racetrack or a Quick Trip on steroids. It is massive. They're coming to Georgia. In South Georgia, I think there's more than a few down there. We have one coming up the road in Calhoun later this summer. There are billboards everywhere up 75 by us, and maybe Emily or Cindy or some of the folks up this way have seen them, where they're starting employees at $15 to $16 an hour. If you go into a Buc-ee's, they tell you what their wages are. They tell you what they start at. So folks can easily see what these numbers look like. And again, I won't speak for everybody here, but I think it's safe to say that those numbers are bigger than what most programs are able to offer school nutrition employees. And then we have Taco Bell and a lot of your fast food chains who are offering $500 and $1,000 sign-on bonuses. I am consulting with my own personal golf and country club right now as to how they can solve their own crisis. And there's some real serious challenges there with not just attracting talent away from some of these places and away from, more casual dining or fine dining establishments, but then how do they attract and keep the right employees too? And places like Taco Bell and Pizza Hut offering $500 and $1,000 signing bonuses, it's going to get real competitive, and it is getting real competitive real quickly. So that kind of transitions here. If you want to share the format, if you were hoping for this to be me talking to you through a PowerPoint, you're going to be really disappointed because we are coming to the end of that portion of this. This is going to be for you. This is a roundtable with an open discussion. No one is going to be muted, but there are just a few things that I want to highlight. This is a absolutely judgment-free zone. There is no wrong answer. There is no shaming. There is no laughing at somebody for trying something or saying something. That is completely forbidden. This is a safe place where you can feel absolutely comfortable sharing all of your thoughts, all of your opinions, right, wrong, or otherwise. Welcome to those of you who I just let in. Welcome, Dr. Dotson. Thank you for joining us. We're just going through some introduction things here, and I'll give you an opportunity to say hello here in just a moment as well. But really, this is a judgment-free zone. So there's no shame, there's no wrong answer. If you tried something and it didn't work, we want to hear it. If you tried something and it did work, we want to hear it. If you are looking at trying something and you're going to stick your toe in the water, we want to hear that. Really, share, and then share some more. So again, I can't reiterate enough. This is your space. This is your time. This is your opportunity to connect with your peers on this topic and on these challenges. So I've tried to frame a little bit of the discussion, and I think we can probably go in any number of directions from here. And I'll open it up to the group here in just a moment. But I really see this looking at maybe three unique topics or fingers of the discussion, if you will. So I look at some short-term solutions. So sign-on bonuses. Are there opportunities for performance bonuses specifically around attendance? Utilization of CARES Act money. Long-term solutions could be something like creating a career, really relaunching school nutrition jobs as career, really leading with leadership opportunities. So attracting talent by creating leadership paths and leadership positions within some of those roles. And then recruitment of a younger workforce. And I know that's very, there may be a better way to say that, but how do we look at attracting folks fresh out of college, people who are looking at a career in hospitality, rather than them going to work at a resort or a hotel or a dining facility? How do we recruit those folks to start their hospitality careers in school nutrition? And then maybe looking at the work and the job description itself. Are we utilizing modern techniques? This is something that's near and dear to my heart as we talk about equipment, right? Are we utilizing the most forward-thinking equipment, the equipment that gets folks excited to come to work? Are we looking at being able to create some of the tasks that were more physically intensive and scaling that back so the work may be, again, quote unquote, easier? And then looking at creating training within the job and within the job description that would help them get their next job. So folks who want to continue pursuing down a path that is either school nutrition adjacent or something within food and beverage, are we providing training that would help them get that next job? So with that being said, I want to get out of this here. I'm going to stop sharing. I want to give a quick opportunity to give the folks who are our special guests on here to say hello, give their 2 cents, and then really just wanted to open it up to discussion and really understand some of the challenges that y'all are facing in the immediate situation that you see down the line, how you're addressing those. So that being said, Dr. Dodson, I would love to give you the floor for a moment and let you say hello and any thoughts or insight that you may have as well.
Well, thank you, Corey, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. We want to obviously support all our local programs, no matter what the challenges are that you're facing. And some of it, we may have more solutions for possibly than others. I know the distribution issue is a big issue. I listened even to the ANC public meeting that was around that where they had distributors on that call. And I've seen the letters, from US Foods and some of the other vendors. One of the things I guess I would just really encourage you guys, and I've had some conversations actually too with some directors that have shared back to me some of their challenges. Some of them have been larger systems, some of them have been smaller systems. And I've even seen smaller systems get good responses from their distributors by really engaging in a conversation with them. I think it's really important through this whole dynamic. I know we've been challenged the last 17, 18 months in general. But I think the one thing that I've seen help us survive it, I think, was good communication. So we want to be good business partners to our distributors. So that's kind of like in the forefront of my mind because I've just heard recently, people are being shorted products, those sorts of things. And some of it, really is out of the distributor's hands. If the manufacturers aren't making the products, they can't bring them in. So, working with your distributors to be a good business partner and, understand that, they are running a business, obviously supporting us in our programs. And so, just like we are, we all have parameters that we work within. So communication and follow up with them about your challenges. And some of that might honestly, y'all need to be conversations. I've seen better results from districts that have had conversations as opposed to just back and forth emails. Sometimes a person really can kind of develop a relationship and build on that. And so it might not change the end result, but at least you've got people maybe listening to you a little better. So I would just encourage you in that area. And I know in some areas, staffing is a challenge as well. And some of the conversations that actually I was having even prior to COVID were around us really looking at establishing a career pipeline for school nutrition. I think that we have an opportunity, and now, honestly, I think it's even more necessary than anything. So exposing even our students and our culinary arts programs and all as opportunities, you just never know what could develop from some of those relationships in giving people a chance to see the value. I've seen some really creative social media posts go out. We've tried to do that from the state agency too. We've done these Friday, did you know, that school nutritional professionals are this, that you have that opportunity. So if you are active in social media, those are things that we've done to try to help amplify some of that. And I think, again, like this session, Corey, you giving the opportunity for people to share what's working well for them and try it. I think this is the environment we're in. We've got to try different things, and different things are going to be successful for different areas and different people. But thank you for including me. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if there's something that we need to to do to better support you from the state agency, we are definitely committed to that. And please call me Lynette. So anyway, y'all have a good morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynette. Emerald, I'd like to open it up to you real quick here to maybe say hello and any immediate thoughts that you have, and then we'll give Polly an opportunity to say hello, and then again we'll open up the discussion.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Like Corey said, I'm Emerald Wick with General Mills. And General Mills and K-12, we have a strong partnership. We love working with all of you guys. And to echo what Lynette said with like the distribution issue, just to touch on that, because that's we play a big part in that too. The whole industry is feeling a lot of constraints from whether it's the transportation issue and logistics, or at our manufacturing facilities, we have problems getting ingredients from our ingredient manufacturers, and that can put us behind. So there's obviously the whole complicated supply chain, and then match with it the pandemic and the volatile demand, and it's like a recipe for disaster. So that communication piece is really important too, and including manufacturers in it as well. Your big manufacturer partners where you might be getting quite a few items from General Mills. I'm able to stay, and my team, we're able to stay close and know what issues are going on, or can provide good subs. We know what's stocked at the distributor and work really close. I find that when myself or General Mills representative, the distributor representative, and the school nutrition program are talking and really close, and can pick up the phone like, hey, this is going on, what's up with this, it's really beneficial. And there are going to be issues, and we'll work through them, and that trifecta is a really nice relationship. So reminding everyone to really lean on your manufacturers like General Mills, the bigger ones that have the resources and the capacity and the capability. Like it's like our favorite business. Like we love K-12, and we want to be there to support and help. And even if it's from a staffing perspective, right? Like, and creating, I think about creating a space of good morale, like team morale. I know it's been so hard on your teams, and I can't even imagine the stress and for the last year and a half now, right? And so leaning on General Mills to participate, whether it's like a Doughboy keychain forever, it could be something really small, or like a snack bag. Or I know we partner with a lot of districts this year for their in-service and providing, whether it's some snacks or something for them. Like we have the capability to do that, and we like to partner with our partners, like our school partners like that. And then from a labor situation, maybe you can't get the number of people in and you're really short. How do you adjust your menu? I think we're all super sick of IW, but it's also a really good option. We have a lot of great IW products that maybe you don't have the staff right now to go back to all those scratch items that you're used to providing, but knowing that there's incredible products out there that are really easy and kind of span that labor continuum, where maybe it's a little bit in the middle, like a freezer to oven, whole grain cinnamon roll, or, maybe it is the individually wrapped cheesy pull apart, something really easy to kind of combat. And I know, people want to get back to that scratch and back to, their school nutrition, ways of providing that nutritious meal, but we can still do that with a lot of our products. And so I'm talking a lot. I'll pass it along, but my big message too is lean on your big manufacturers. I think they have a lot to offer and are willing to help. And it's like, all we got to do is think of it and ask, and we could probably make it happen.
Well, Emerald, you make a really great point. I think we're going to hear a lot of is how do you add value to that employee outside of just increasing wages? And I think some of those small gifts and small perks go a long way.
Or like a team lunch or something like that. We do that a lot for our partners, and menu biscuits, and we'll buy y'all pizza.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great transition into Polly Barrington, again, the executive director of the American Culinary Federation for Atlanta. Not only is she in that unique leadership role, but she's also married to the certified executive chef for Eastlake Golf Club, Nick Barrington. And so she has a unique perspective of also being able to hear some of the challenges Nick has, seeing the challenges that the chefs within the culinary world as a whole has. And so Polly's a wealth of knowledge. And I really thought it'd be interesting to include her in this discussion, this conversation, because I think often what we fail to fail to connect as an industry, right, is the things that are successful in a different part of food and beverage and food service into school nutrition in a meaningful way, right? Like usually it's a, hey, here's a square peg round hole, make it work sort of thing. And I think the more that we can include these experts from, you know, adjacent parts of our industry, the better we're going to be. So Polly, if you don't mind sharing a few thoughts to kick us off and get us started.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us. And I say us because Chef Nick would love to be here. And we had a very long discussion last night over some bullet points that we both felt that would be important to all of you all. First thing, of course, we want to talk about is just build the relationships. We've already heard that a couple of times this morning. And that is probably the key to everything. We're building a relationship. Well, we've got a great relationship with Corey. We're building a relationship with all of you all, as well as our partners, our manufacturers, our broadline distributors, all the way down to our student chefs coming out of culinary school. We here at ACF Atlanta, it's very important to build the relationship. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone call, send a quick text message. I find that those sometimes work a little bit better than an email.
Polly,
I get hundreds of emails a day.
not to interrupt there, but I know, just to add some context here,
Yep.
Chefs are constantly being recruited and pulled from different restaurants and different industries, right?
Yes.
So that relationship piece becomes even more valuable as they're being attracted by another restaurateur or entrepreneur, right? And so I think that's something that translates really well into school nutrition as we start looking at, hey, these folks are starting to see signs and billboards for $16 an hour. I think that, you know, I'm looking at Emily Hanlon on here, but if, you know, Emily sending, you know, calling employees and saying, checking in, hey, how are things, and having those relationships, right, might prevent some of those wandering eyes.
Oh, by far. And that's actually where I was going with all of this. You've got companies out there that are recruiting anywhere, like we've seen something from $16 to $20 an hour for some basic chefs because they want a body. But what are they doing with that person when they get there? Is it truly a body, or is it a person that they're going to value and continue to grow within their operation? You've got several different choices that you can do. I mean, you can be the typical, you know, hey, I'm just going to hire this person, or you can support them. And I mean, ACF Atlanta, we do try to do as much as possible for our chefs at all levels, work with them certification. So if it's something that you want to talk about, you know, building that career, you know, maybe it's some type of continual education, memberships, things that give them value on the backside versus on the front side as far as money in their pocket right here, right now. A lot of our chefs want to continue to grow, and that's a great way for all of your programs to expand. Right now, we may not have that complete label here right now. Yep. But at the same time, we've got great equipment and great products out there from all of our distributors. From, you know, maybe it's an oven that can help heat up those items quicker, faster. So it's one person doing a job of maybe 2 or 3, and we're purchasing those items. Like you just said earlier, Emerald, we've got great healthy products, and maybe they're not by scratch, but somebody's making them. So it's not necessarily happening in your location, but it is happening. So it's kind of like open your eyes. We love the whole farm to table. You know, if we can be able to, you know, maybe have a school garden, something like that, that allows fruits and vegetables to be utilized on site that you can put right into your kitchen. Maybe it's something as simple as that, you know, but again, about build those relationships. Get the right equipment right now to help the folks that are in those positions doing those jobs, support them on the backside, make them feel valued. You know, for some of us, you know, we don't necessarily walk through the kitchen every day, but maybe it's something, you know, you put into your daily routine and just say, hello, how are you? You know, giving a caring voice, you know, thanks for being here today, means a lot to some people. And especially now, after a whole pandemic of all of us sitting at home with our families during all of this time, the amount of time now away from them is has been completely flipped. You know, it's like, wait a minute, can I do a job from home? Can I do something different? Why do I need to go have a real work job where I've got to get up, get dressed, get in the car, go somewhere? I've got friends that have in this industry itself that have completely switched businesses where they are doing things from home. Well, we're in a situation in schools where you need to be there. You need to cook for the students that are there, or if they're taking stuff away, it's a physical job that has to be done on site. Well, maybe you start looking at maybe some of the moms that have students in there going to school. So that way, maybe they're not expert cooks. They may not be quote unquote chefs, but they may be wanting to spend more time with their families. And if this gives them an opportunity, you know what, why not open it up? Again, it's about that round hole and a square peg, or the square peg and the round hole, whichever way you want to look at it. We got to come out of the box.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Polly, I think you make a lot of really great points there, and some that I know have been big as far as the recruitment with for a while with school nutrition, right? The approach of, hey, you can have weekends off and you have holidays off and you have all of those things. I think that's going to be reliant. I mean, that's going to have to go at the top of the job description list, even more so than ever, right? With, okay, you can make $16 an hour at Buc-ee's, but you're going to have to work from 9 o'clock at night until 4 a.m, right? And so we're going to need you there on Christmas Eve and Christmas. Well, guess what? I can't pay you $16 an hour, but you can be home every night at 4 o'clock. You can get your kid off the bus and you can be there to celebrate holidays with them. So I really want to kick this over to the directors and the folks on the call now, and I'll open it up with Emily. Again, I'm looking at you since you're at the top of my screen. What's the biggest challenge that's facing Cobb County as it relates to staffing?
Volume of people I have to rehire. So I am down, it's like over 200 head count. So greater than 20% of my frontline staff. We are right now have 82 postings on our website for employees. So I'm not even financially able to bring all 200 back yet. I would love to post 200 jobs. I can't even afford to do that. So we're kind of trying to get us where we can manage. So, but we've done exactly the things you're talking about. We promoted the no nights, no weekends, no holidays, be at home with your kids, work 4 hours and get full benefits. We've hit every PTA, every principal, like we've hired a lot of those PTA moms. So that's who we're picking up at the moment, because, and a lot of them are great because they're invested in the school. So they may have no cooking ability, but they will work their butt off because they're kids in that building. So there's a little bit of that we're leveraging at the moment, but I have no confidence that come Monday when we open all of our buildings that I won't still have 82 openings. We're doing everything we can. I don't like to do, well, let me rephrase that. In the past, I have done incentives for attendance. In the year of COVID, I do not want to incent people to come to work sick, because they will, to get the incentive. So I stopped doing that with COVID, and I'm not going to do that again this year, because again, if they're sick, I need them to stay home. I don't need them to come and then have my whole kitchen down because someone brought it to work. But we've done that in the past. We'll do that again. We definitely do the pipeline thing. Like we get the moment they're in the door and we see they're good, we're talking to them about being a key person, which for us is like an assistant manager. Those key people who are great, we're already talking to them about how we're going to get them ready to be a manager. And from day one, we do onboarding and orientation, and it's embedded in everything from the start, because I firmly believe in it should be a pipeline. I should not be having to go get fresh managers. They should be people who've been working for me for years. So yeah, but I don't know if I have an answer. I'm hoping when the extra unemployment ends in September, it gets easier for everybody. I'm cautiously optimistic that it will.
Yeah, I think that's where we step into that new world of that competitive world, right? Like then all of a sudden, and hopefully the competition goes down and some of the benefits and incentives that are going to be offered are going to be lowered as well. But
yeah, my average FSA pay is just under $15 an hour. I'm at $14.90 average FSA pay. Starting pay is right around high 13s right now. So I'm not out of the ballpark as far as what I'm paying. So that's the other thing. But I'm Metro. I know people outside of Metro are not paying that much because they can't afford to, but I have to get people.
What you have 82 job postings, you said. What is preventing that from rapidly getting down to zero? Like, are you finding just not enough people applying? Are you finding not enough quality people are applying, where you're showing up in flip-flops and a tank top and you're going, well, you can't even come to a job interview appropriately. Like what are you finding is the reason for keeping that 82 number up there?
It varies across my county. So my high-end communities, for lack of better, my high socioeconomic communities, not a lot of applicants. And then in some of my lower socioeconomic, we have applicants, but they are not necessarily the people we want to have working with children. So,
Yeah.
so it's a mix depending on where you are in my county.
Penny, I've got you on my screen. I would love to hear if some of the challenges you're having with labor kind of mirror what you heard Emily share, or if you're noticing any different challenges or anything more unique, or what are you running into?
Well, she kind of made me feel bad. I've been kind of sad and moaning and groaning and feeling sorry, but now I don't, because that right there is a heartache right there. What I'm seeing is I lost 17 people during COVID last year. And I had multiple kitchens shutting down. I had to pull my office staff into the kitchens, which was fun. I love doing that. So it's just, I don't really think it's anything we're doing necessarily. I think, you know, we're just not getting a lot of support.
Yeah.
I'm not able to do a starting pay of $13 an hour at the moment. I'm hoping to do something next school year if COVID doesn't come back around and shut us down and we lose participation and funding. So I don't really know what's ahead.
No, I think that last statement you said there, I think probably is the most universally used phrase I've heard. I don't know what's up ahead, right? Like, I think that's the biggest challenge that we keep seeing is there's so much unknown. I mean, heck, you even take the current situation. I think a month ago, we all felt really good about our plans for the kids coming back
Oh
to
yeah.
the building. And now, you know, that's been turned upside on its head, right?
Yeah, it's like you have a plan today, but it's not the plan for tomorrow. You've just got to wear multiple hats, and you've got to be ready on your feet to get out there and take care of those children. And, you know, I have to move people around. They don't like it. That's another side of this job. You know, I've got staff that have been in kitchens for years, and I'm having to go to them and say, you know, please go to this site and support this team. So the director's dealing with a lot. You've got emotions, you've got money, and you're responsible. So, and I kind of wear my heart on my shoulder a lot. I feel so responsible, but Emily kind of helped me a little bit this morning. So I don't quite feel as bad as I did 5 minutes ago.
It's all about percentages, Penny.
Yes.
You're probably down the same percentage I am. I'm just so big, it feels like a lot.
Yeah. I have 8 little sites. So yeah.
Well, I'd like to transition that to Cheryl. So whenever there's a business related topic within the school nutrition world, my first phone call is usually to Cheryl. So I'm curious to hear Cheryl's take and what's going on in Hall County as it relates to the business perspective of this and the challenges that you're facing with attracting labor.
Thank you, Corey. You're so kind. School nutrition is a business. We're all in the business world, but I'm constantly looking at the budget, looking at the numbers, talking to the team. We were down 25 staff. We had 25 openings at the end of FY21. We're down to 10 openings, and we have managers who interview 3 times a week, and we have quite a few job openings on our website. So we've got it down to 10. And out of that 10, bear with me just a moment, I'm looking at my spreadsheet. I think we have stellar subs. We have 4 stellar sub positions, 5 nutrition assistants, and 1 assistant manager. I think the stellar sub openings will be filled once we come back to school. I'm very optimistic. Our district had a huge salary scale revamp, if you will. So our Board of Education, our superintendent and HR allowed me to go through and look at all of the salaries for 0 to 21 plus years between our assistants and our managers. So that was very good. I've added 2 lead managers to my team. I have 2 trainers. I hired an assistant director. I also hired another coordinator. And we're very, very blessed. But looking at the numbers, I also ran my budget to make sure that, okay, we've got good COVID reimbursement right now, if you will. But I also looked at, what if we don't have that great reimbursement in the years to come? Can I sustain what we're doing? So we gave a raise in between the steps on all of our food assistants and managers. And the ones that have been here 20 plus years, when I cleaned up that salary scale, it gave some of them over $3,000 increase. And we don't have the turnover in our manager area as much as we, some other districts are having, and I'm very blessed for that. But we just take care of our team. We have our vision, mission, part of that is the most caring place on earth, but it doesn't mean we're pushovers. But I looked at the numbers to make sure we're good today. Can we be good if we continue with the same participation? Can we be good with that number of step increases, et cetera? If we were to at a regular reimbursement rate, I had to make that work. And if it comes up on the left side of 100%, we're good to go. If it goes over to the right, oh, we got to do something. Yeah. And what I typically do, looking at meals per labor hour, I use that as a production measure only. I don't staff kitchens based on that. I have a very simple process of saying, hey, you got 100 kids you're feeding. You can't feed with just one person. I'll give you 2 people, but looking at your enrollment, looking at your participation are 2 different things. So I look at it that way. How many staff do you need? Do you really need them 7 hours? So I'm looking at that constantly, even though you guys have earned some meals per labor hour, doesn't mean you can financially afford it, because some of our schools are at the very top of the pay scale, which, they don't have a lot of free reviews. And I have to look at this as though it were not a pandemic, because we're going to come out of this at some point, and we got to be able to afford what we're doing today. Yeah. So I'm very blessed. All the time we work it. We just make sure our managers have what they need, the resources that we can provide to them, and the support. Our district is huge into mental health training right now, and our district is also paying teams to come in during the summer to make extra money for 2.5 hours to have their mental health skills training. That's just awesome. But we were down 25, we're down 10. We're going to get those filled. I'm going to stay optimistic, because I just approved 3 new hires 15 minutes ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that might transition into a question I have for Cindy. Cindy, over at Marietta City and your team over there, I know you might be uniquely positioned to answer this because of maybe some of the changes and shifts that you had even at the central office team when Denisha stepped up into a new role. And I know y'all were wearing multiple hats. What does it look like to have, say, 20% less staff on the front line if the staff that you have is 60% better quality employee? Is that something that y'all have explored or something that you might see of value to other programs?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So just to kind of reiterate with where everybody is, I'm 11 schools. We've had 13 openings as of yesterday afternoon as we went through this. For me, 13 is not a big number, but that's 24%. So percentage-wise, it's up there. The good thing is, with our office staff, and I think it is important to look at your office staff and who you bring in and how we can support our staff members out at the school site. So one thing that Denisha does bring a lot of that value, because she has that food service, she was a school manager a few years ago. So she has that knowledge, very strong operational. And then her background, me as a registered dietitian and her as from a hotel restaurant management degree, together it merges all of our skills and knowledge, just very balanced. And then thankfully, we just upgraded our secretary position. So now it's a administrative secretary procurement specialist position. Again, we hired internally. It was one of our managers who has very strong organizational skills and wants to keep growing within school nutrition. So now when she's doing our purchasing and equipment repair things, she actually has, can see herself in the kitchen like, oh, this is a fix that needs to be done today versus, we'll put in a work order and it'll get done eventually. So she's able to kind of understand the urgency that's needed with our managers. So we're excited about having her on board. And the other, I did want to throw in, just as another idea, a couple of things that we do within our district is we do employ some of our students. So we work with our high school and with the work placement. We do a couple, actually 3 different things. One is just high school students who are interested in culinary, want food service experience. Their time is limited, obviously, because they're in class. So, but we'll take the help that we can get. So whenever they have their availability, we welcome them into our schools. The other is they not through work experience, but more as an internship. I've had 2 students who are interested in nutrition and dietetics. So they actually, the whole entire year, come into our office and actually, act as an intern. And the beauty of that is, we really push them on doing our social media because they're in high school. They know what they want to see. So they help us with social media. They help us with promotions. And they just, become an ambassador to our program. So that's been really fun and very successful for us. And then the third option that we've done, and we just talked about this yesterday, so we're going to have 5 students. These are our the special needs high developed students who are getting closer to graduate. So they've come into our kitchens, are able to do, some very routine type of jobs, but we all know a job's a job and it still needs to get done. And it gives them the opportunity to garner that work experience while providing us unpaid labor, because again, for them, this is a class. So we're just really trying to, be smart about who we become friends with and how we can all help each other. And all of those examples for our students, it's a win-win because they're struggling to, especially during COVID, a lot of companies don't allow students to come onto their campus right now. And hey, they're already here. So if if you're sick down the hall, you're going to be sick over here, but hopefully they're not sick in school. But we didn't have any issues with any of our students this past year and the year previous. So just wanted to share that as some ideas as well of something that is successful and that we've been doing for the past few years.
It's so creative and such a nice win-win. I love, it's an awesome idea. Love it.
Thank you.
I love that. And I know that's it's a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Cheryl and I have had that conversation when we were talking about the coffee. So I think there's 2 things that you really hit on there, Cindy, that I made a note of that I would love to hear other thoughts. One, the exposure and the ambassadors, and I keep kind of going back to exposure as it relates to professional opportunities, especially with the staff. Again, I think we're finding college isn't for everybody and isn't the requirement anymore, right? Like when you're looking at, I use my poor brother as the joke here, but he spent $35,000 a year on tuition to become a teacher, right? Like college is getting more expensive. And so people are looking at career paths where maybe they don't have to go to college right away, or maybe it can be a way to help them pay for college. I think school nutrition can really be a good fit for a lot of people there in that realm. And so I think exposing students to that, I can speak for myself here. I won't speak for Emerald. I won't speak for Poly or any of the other vendors. I've never been asked to come in and speak to a team to let them know what other career opportunities exist outside of just standing behind that serving line either, right? And so use your partners. Again, I think we'd be happy to come in and say, hey, there's things beyond just, you're not going to have to stay behind the serving line for 30 years, right? There's other opportunities, whether it be transitioning into central office and a leadership role, management, central office, working for a vendor like Kellogg's. Again, heaven forbid you have the stomach to want to sell equipment, but you could do that, causes gray hair, but that's okay. But but speaking to that, I also really kind of want to get some more insight, and maybe Abby, you can share, or Donna, I would love to hear from both of you as well, as it relates to how much more effective are some of your highest quality employees, and is it possible that if we're having to work under a reduced workforce, and this is kind of what Cindy talked about with some of the skill set that she has and Denisha has, right? So if we historically needed 10 people to get a job done, if we have 8 really good employees, is that a better situation? Does that allow for some of that money to be spread out amongst those folks to be able to keep them a little bit better? I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on that as well.
Corey, I can speak to that just from experience. At the end of the school year, a lady came in my office looking for work. She had been let go from factory jobs up here because she had to tend to a family emergency, and they had no mercy about her needing to take care of a ailing mom, and they let her go. So she comes to talk to me, and of course I can't match the salary of a factory job. So I had to sell her on the intangibles of what we do, the benefits, the time off to take care of your family, the fact that you're off at 1:30 or 2 and you can go see your parent in the nursing home. You can go still feed them supper. You can still be available to talk to their caregivers and their team. But I also found hiring someone from the private sector in, she can work so fast because she's used to having to keep up on an assembly line. And to her, what we do is easy. She's tickled pink to be in a place where, no one's putting quotas on her every day. And she gets to be home by 2, and she's looking forward to holiday time off. So that's what I have found, is that sometimes we have to be good at selling the intangible benefit of school nutrition, because there's a ton of intangible benefit. And then I looked for ways I worked her all summer. I promised her I would work her in the supper program as well. I looked for as many hours as I could give her to try to make up that financial gap. And then, as to reiterate what Cheryl says, my first thing when we see if this universal free meals or whatever continues, and we see what's going to happen with our programs, is to give back into the staff with a new pay scale. But being a very small system, I'm leery of spending that money before I see how long it's going to last. But that's the first thing that we'll do, is to look at trying to keep up with the private sector. But if you can find some people who can see the benefit of our schedule and some of the other things we offer, you can get some highly qualified people who appreciate what we do and can do it quicker than some of the people who have never been outside of a school nutrition kitchen. They think they're highly overworked, and how can they get it all done? You bring in people who have been elsewhere, and
Actually overworked.
they see the difference.
Yeah. Abby,
Yeah,
I
just to bring a
really
unique
great point.
skill
And
set
I don't.
too, something.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No.
Oh no, just to bring different skill sets or unique perspective from outside is really beneficial too.
Yeah, I don't want to. I get, my wife yells at me. She says I'm an overshare. So this might be one of those moments here. But my background, I actually came to CGA. That's what attracted me to the role. They knew that what I was being paid for my previous employer, they couldn't match. But what they promised me was the ability to step into a role and do it kind of how I wanted to do it from a passion standpoint. Hence why I'm able to do these sort of host these webinars and do some of the things I've been able to do. And so they appealed to the passion in me. They appealed to the freedom. And so it was an additional value add that I took a pay decrease to come do what I do now. And I can speak to that from my own personal perspective. It happens. People will take less money to have freedom.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a very important thing. And again, it's not a new concept in school nutrition to tell people, hey, you can be home for holidays and pick folks up off the bus. But I think in this new world that we're living in and we're stepping into, I think that is the top bold, right? Like that is, I mean, Holly's nodding, and yes, I mean, that is, I think, where we're going to win in that battle. And then again, I think to that point, you're going to find folks like Abby found, where people who have actually been overworked are used to working maybe the night shift or the graveyard shift, right? And them stepping into a school nutrition role are going to find, wow, like isn't nearly the same. Again, my dad, blue collar his whole life, worked 80 hours in a factory. Like, he yells at me all the time whenever I rant, oh, I had a long day, talk to him on the phone, oh, I had a long day. Son, you don't know what hard work is. Yeah, you're right. Like, when we start putting things in perspective, I think that goes a long way as well. So Abby, I think that those are some really good things there. Lynette, I think there's a piece here that I would love your input and your expertise on, as we're talking about trying to make budgets larger that aren't necessarily larger. Are there availabilities to use some of that CARES Act money for signing bonuses, for incentives, for attracting talent? Is that something that exists, or anything you've seen done or permissible?
It's a great question. So the CARES Act money is really managed through USAID, not through USDA. So I do know we did a partnered webinar with Matt Cardoza that is over that for the DOE in February with our directors on a director's briefing. So if any of you missed that, please go back. And Emily Rowell is who we coordinate with at Godot around this as well. Basically, if it can demonstrate a connection to COVID, my understanding from all of the communications and sharing we've had, there's really no request that could not be considered. So if you're having an impact, I think I would present that as a need. We've kind of encouraged that in other areas. We've even seen situations where some equipment was approved because there was a COVID tie-in. We didn't really expect that early on, but that can be filtered up through those channels, through your financial people at the local district. But honestly, that would make more sense than us providing it through our programs funding. That's not probably truly an allowable cost through USDA's reimbursement model, nor would you, potentially have that ability. You would have a better shot of raising your salary, right? And making that a part of it. But I certainly think that right now with the CARES Act money, there's nothing that I wouldn't pursue as a local director in making that request. And knowing that that is the environment, you see it driving down the street. All of these businesses and groups are also doing that to recruit staffing. So I think that is a product of COVID.
No, Lynette, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that's a great point as it relates to just exploring kind of everything, because everybody else is exploring everything. Polly, this might be a good transition for you to lead here. As it relates to attracting talent, have you seen, or has Chef Nick seen, the use of new cooking techniques and new equipment be a driver in, and I promise this isn't meant as someone who sells equipment to be a leader here. It's the prism of which I look through things. So,
Okay, Corey, you can make it fun.
You know what? And again, I won't call them out, but we had a director who actually purchased some new equipment, blast chillers, found, negotiating, having less staff. If I'm going to have less staff, okay, if we can prepare in bulk, freeze, there might be something there. So I'm trying to see, is that more of a one-off situation, or probably are you seeing something as it relates to within the ACF world of equipment or access to certain food products being a driver in staffing?
Actually, we've just begun to see that because of the staffing levels. You have guys and corporations, say like Chick-fil-A. Okay, Chick-fil-A is redesigning some of their kitchens to be modified to have less employees working there. We all see their drive-throughs as we drive by. You may eat there as well, but they have contacted several rep companies as far as, how can I get this quicker? How can I get this faster? I need to move my people through the lines to pick up their food, whether they're doing the online ordering or whatever that looks like on their end. However, they are already going down that path of finding the correct equipment to make it more convenient for their consumers, which of course that boils down to time. So when it comes to products, I mean, is it something, and I'm just going to use this as an example, if we buy a green bean casserole that we're able to heat and serve, then that takes out the time of somebody opening a can of green beans, that takes out the time of them mixing it all together. We have great products that are out there that can be a heat and serve a lot faster than anybody else. And we've got product, we've got equipment, we've got.
Thanks, Lynette.
Thank you. We've got that ability, and it is starting to happen. And it's really starting with these big chains realizing their demand and being able to push it out faster. I think for school nutrition, again, yeah, we love that farm to table. We want that homemade stuff. It is being made somewhere, like I said earlier. So don't be afraid to contact your US Foods, your Cisco, whether you're working with Gordon's, your General Mills. Who is it that you're working with, and have that discussion? I know several companies also that have maybe some rebate programs that you may want to get involved with that can maybe help offset that cost initially, and maybe not like a lease type situation, but may be able to help. Or it does fall into the CARES Act that you need to get this equipment to make your kitchens work more efficiently.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are starting to see that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Polly, too. And you bring up rebates or equipment that might help you, and larger manufacturers run promotions or can come up with promotions where if you need a certain, more cooler bags, or if you need a breakfast cart to put it out to where the students are, like, we can design a promotion where we get you that, right? Where you just have, you're menuing something anyway, and we can adjust it to where we can provide that. And also a lot of school nutrition programs don't realize that General Mills always has K-12 rebates. They're always available, and you could get, thousands of dollars, and I know that pales in comparison into where you're heading as far as when you're talking about compensation and things like that, but that could help, or wherever, you could put that straight to your bottom line. So looking into those resources, or, I know you guys are busy, you don't have a lot of time, but leaning on your General Mills rep. I know hopefully some of you've been in touch with Michaela or Talia, where we can help you do that and get you those resources, whether it's rebate cash, or, we had a Game Changers promotion where some schools got, 5 figures of money to buy in a store, to buy carts or immersion blenders or different things like that. And
I think, Emerald, that's a great point as it transitions into the bigger picture, right? Like, it's that communication again back with your vendors. Lean on your vendors to not only provide products that are going to entice staff to want to be there, stay there, work there, but have that communication with them as it relates to ways to continue to provide that additional value to that employee. Yeah. Because there's a passion that could be stoked, right? Like, through some of those things.
Yeah, and where, maybe you don't have the money to buy like a bag sealer for, or whatever it might be, or for every school, but you add mini pancakes to your menu, like, a few more times a week in your rotation, and then that equates and turns into something that we can provide for you. So the creative ways to barter and trade, it's not just like a pure cash flow in or out.
Yeah. I want to, because we're getting close to about an hour here, and I want to be considerate of everyone's time. So I want to open it up to any sort of hodgepodge or miscellaneous topics that, you might see some value in. Like I said, there's going to be quite a few folks who have asked for this recording. So, Cheryl, Cindy, Abby, Penny, Donna, I'm looking at a few folks here on my screen. What do you think would be valuable for your peers across the state to hear that's either worked or not worked in your program?
So one of the things that I wanted to bring to the group, and I'm sure you guys are already doing this, our vendors have already reached out to us about some of the things that are going to be happening with the supply chain, and we are ready we're gonna take deliveries 5 days a week. They have a driver shortage, they have a supply chain issue, just like the reps on this Zoom call we're talking about, and we're just gonna work with them. Our menu planner is a registered dietitian. She's gonna sub what she can when she needs to. We just need to be flexible, because a lot of our manufacturers and distributors have gotten out of this K-12 business because we are always so strict. So we've got to be flexible. It's not just with our industry, it's everywhere. And if you bought lumber, the price is sky high. Inflation is upon us, so we just need to be ready and be flexible just to get what our boys and girls need. And we're just gonna be here and be available and help our team every chance that we get, because it's real. In terms of getting labor and getting staff to join our program, I believe Abby was right on with showing the intangibles, because we've always said, you're not going to get rich working in school nutrition, but you are going to be rewarded with the awe of being around boys and girls and a great team. I would love to hear from Donna on how she's handling things down in the southern part of the state.
Okay, so I actually just have 2 job openings right now, so we're doing okay, but I'm being very conservative just due to participation being down this past year compared to years previous. So I'm just going to be a little bit optimistic, but also a little bit careful. We have actually recruited 3 bus drivers to work for 4 hours, like in the middle of the day from maybe 9:15 till 1:30. And so they're still getting their 4 hours bus driving time. And then Monday, I have 2 custodians that are transitioning over to school nutrition. So they'll be 6-hour workers, but they're still going to be able to work 2 hours helping with custodial in different schools, because they're short. Those 3 departments: transportation, custodial, and school nutrition. So that's basically what we're doing. And we're doing what we always accept substitutes as long as they're, appropriate. If they're not what we need, then we will decline different substitute food items. But for the most part, we always work with Williams also, and they work with us. So that's what we're doing. It's not too bad right now. Again, me and 2 of my associates here in my office worked basically in the schools up until February every week. I just wore my scrubs, or else had them here in my office. And that's what we did. And it was fun. It was fun, but I need to do my job. So that's basically it down here.
Well, Donna, that's great to hear that you've only got the 2 spots opening, and that some of those challenges. I think that's the hope that a lot of folks should take from this, is that there are situations and solutions out there, and there are things that are working that keep those openings down and keep folks engaged and employed within school nutrition. And I think, again, it's going to be, I want to be careful how I say this, right? But many of you who know me well enough, and for those of you who will be watching this later, who either may know me or may not know me, right? Like I have been on the block that school nutrition has been needing to shift and change for a little while to keep up with the rest of food service and the food and beverage industry, right? And the pandemic shined a light on that. And I think what we're seeing now as it relates to some of the labor challenges is we need to shift how we look at hiring employees, how we look at engaging employees, how we look at attracting employees, how we look at the job descriptions and how we write the job descriptions, right? And so I don't think it's necessarily the sky is falling, perhaps as much as it's, hey, how do we shift and do things different, right? How do we highlight these intangibles? How do we create value add to our employees that don't involve adding $4 an hour to the salary, right? Like, so there's just a lot of things that just have to shift, change, and adjust. And again, that's not a bad thing. I think there's an inevitability that was coming. I think we're just being pushed along maybe a little bit quicker due to the circumstances.
I have a comment. I've just heard a lot about, deciding, staffing levels and things like that. And I'm just wondering how and if this is the case, like uncertainty with participation, everyone's coming back in the building. It's free for all. is that on your mind as far as like the uncertainty with participation, and like, are you waiting on any decisions to make until like after maybe it levels out? Talking with distributors and us, we like don't know. I think Scott at US was like, I think everyone underestimated. I think it's going to be a lot more. So what are your thoughts around that and like participation and as we go back this fall?
We're anticipating all of our students coming back into our classrooms. We had I think about 6,000 of our students last year who were virtual learners, and they had the option to pick up meals every week. And by the end of the school year, we only had about 30 parents who were actually taking advantage of that. This school year, FY22, our district has offered a program of choice as a virtual program of choice. We have 37 programs of choice, and virtual is one of them. The numbers will be limited. It won't be for just anyone. If you've been in virtual before and you didn't do well, you're probably not going to be a candidate to participate. But if you're grade 3 through 12 and you meet the criteria, you've been virtual before and you've been successful, then you can be a candidate, and it goes through an application process. So we have a principal that's going to be over the virtual, and I think the limit's 700 for grades 3-12, and it's kind of cool that we're doing that, but we anticipate our students coming back in the building. We had good participation last year, and we actually had more breakfast participation during the pandemic than we did prior, so we were like, wow, we're just glad they're eating with us. Lunch count was down just a little bit, but with the reimbursement rate being at the higher free, that really helped financially. I'm not going to sit here and say we're struggling. I mean, we were very, very fortunate to be able to get the CACFP rate, and just running everything through my budget. I'm very, very conservative on my numbers. I go a little over on expenditures just so that I can stay in line with the budget. And I took the lesser off my participation to run the budget this year just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. And I always want to make sure that I'm heavy on the expense side and lower on the revenue side. So that's kind of how I look at it. Participation drives that. And with my spreadsheet, that's why I don't use meals per labor hour as a staffing formula.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is because we were doing mainly grab and go at most of our schools, but last year we had the opportunity to encourage all of them as mandatory to do grab and go. So, and we have the support that we're going to continue at all schools, grab and go breakfast, which that did drive participation up last year. For the schools that weren't doing grab and go, we saw an increase at those locations. The ones that were used to it, the numbers stayed pretty steady. But so we're excited about being able to continue that. I think lunch will be, for us, we'll be serving in the cafeteria, which we weren't doing last year. And that, yes, we're so excited because we're trucking food all around the campuses, and that was a lot of work for our staff. So we're
and it's not like Marietta High School is a small building either.
Yeah, exactly. Neither is Marietta Middle School, which is 4 buildings attached to each other. So I feel that participation, I'm not going to say it's going to like go sky high driving up, but I feel it will increase because our menu options are going to, we have more options when you're serving from the line versus when we had to the whole entire school year minimize the options because you have to wrap everything. Not everything, spaghetti and meatballs was just not a thing last year. And it was just hard to have a lot of variety. So I think our students are going to be excited to see some of their favorites come back onto the menu.
Good point.
No, I think that's a great, I think that's a great point as well, right? I think the idea of some of the menu items, the favorite menu items that they're used to seeing and that they missed are coming back. I think there's going to drive some participation. I think the freedom of the continuation of the universal feeding is going to help drive some things. I have a final question to throw out there to the group and to the panel here. We did the billboard campaign back in the spring, and it was around advising families that their child can eat at no cost for a given time period. We are working behind the scenes to create another billboard campaign. And up until about 15 minutes ago, the billboard campaign was going to be a continuation of that messaging, right? And as I sit here and I hear some of the conversation and I see some of these things, I keep, it's kind of placed on my heart that maybe the billboard campaign should be around staffing and working, a career and starting a career with school nutrition. Do you all see any value in that? Again, I'm hearing participation numbers are going in the right direction. Folks are probably aware at this point of the universal feeding. Do you think there'd be more value in a billboard campaign highlighting the value in a career in school nutrition?
I think it would be good just because, a lot of people don't think about school nutrition at all. That's not an option in their minds until you actually bring it up to them. So who knows? I mean, depending on what you feel, the exposure of the billboards are, but it may hit a few aha moments for a few people that just would not even think about, especially those that are in the quick service, the quick restaurants where, they're struggling, but they're changing. I hear from friends who go to like fast food restaurants and, I went to the door's closed. They're only doing, DoorDash. And as a customer, you're like, what? because they can't get people, they too are changing their methods. And, but people those that are looking for jobs wouldn't think, oh, maybe in school nutrition, they just go to the next restaurant. They go to the next restaurant until they keep going, but never think about school nutrition as a restaurant.
I couldn't agree.
I have a question to kind of pair off of that. I know in a lot of our counties, we have a diverse community. In your communities themselves, if English isn't a first language, how do you appeal to those that perhaps are qualified to work in your kitchens, but maybe aren't targeting those folks? I mean, would that be an option?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We do have, I can't say a lot, but, because we're not a huge department as far as the total number, but we've got folks that English is not their first language. And because I do all of the hiring, through the office for all the schools, I have the opportunity to know, okay, well, if I put them at this school, this other person, it speaks that language and they can, so it's got to be enough that it's not a detriment to the team, because if no one there can help you, and you can't read recipes and, if it becomes more of a work hazard, that's an issue. But I think, we do have a couple that have very limited English experience, but we know are very hard workers, and they've worked on I'll take the recipe home, get their families to translate for them. So I think it's just going to kind of vary area by area as to how many other people do you have on staff that can help with that English translation as needed.
And, I know this wouldn't apply to everything. It might be
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt, Emerald. And that's coming from English is not my first language. Okay. So I am very sensitive to that.
That's a great point and idea. And I know it doesn't apply to everything, but I know General Mills has put together some back of house preparation sheets for a lot of our IW products, and everything we've put out a Spanish translation version of it too. So I'm sure we aren't the only ones doing that. So if you are in a situation where you have speakers, or English isn't their first language, there's the ability, to lean on your manufacturers for that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. In some of those cases, the manufacturers may be able to convert your recipes into the language that they potentially would need, whether that's Spanish, any type of Asian dialect that might be out there. And we've got a lot of Haitian Creoles that are still here in the area as well. So, I mean, if that's something that is needed, I bet you we could find an outlet for it through our manufacturers somewhere. Somebody's got to be doing it to help you all in case you run across that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there any other topics we didn't cover or any discussion items that you think would be valuable that we should address in this roundtable?
I would like for industry to keep giving us heads up on the items that we're using in our program in terms of our food or even our equipment, things that we might not be able to get in a timely manner, or if they're the popular items, the foods and things that are going to be on our menu each day, just let us know far in advance as you can. And maybe if we could say, hey, if we could get it, here's what our order would be, but since we can't, give us what we can, make sure that we have another option.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how else to make that better, because I know it's everywhere. It's not just here in Georgia. And I know that we're just all doing the best that we can. So anything that industry can do to give us those quick heads up, say, hey, you're not going to be able to get this particular cereal because we can't run such and such. So that would be really helpful.
Cheryl, so you're kind of reading my mind there. So I actually wrote an article for the Georgia Gems coming up here. That's all around communication, working both directions, because I think there's a level of understanding that we're all kind of in this boat together. And from an equipment side, I'm seeing challenges that I never even thought were humanly possible, right? Everything within the cycle or within the supply chain is interrupted. And that's okay if you as the director know that, hey, if you're going to be purchasing shelving, it's going to be a 10-week lead time where you're used to it being 2 weeks, right? And so as long as you know 18 weeks before you need it to allow for 10 weeks, it's fine. It's when you need it 3 weeks from now, and I got to tell you, it's 10 weeks that it's a problem, right? And so that communication, I think, is very valuable. And so there's going to be messaging going out to industry, encouraging that dialogue. There's never been a more important time that we all have to work together and have that dialogue. And so in the same breath that, I'm saying, hey, we need to encourage, industry to speak to directors and school nutrition, please, 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 please feel free and comfortable to share your challenges with us. Reach out to any partner that you have, right? And again, I get my hand slapped all the time for saying stuff like this, but if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to a vendor of yours as a partner, find a new vendor partner, right? Like, they should be a partner. They should be in that boat with you. And if they're not willing to get in that boat with you, find a new one, right? Because the reality is they are going to be a crucial part of your success. And if you have staffing challenges, right? If you're starting the school year with 20% less employees, something has to change, right? And so maybe it's a menu item. Maybe it's working with someone like Emerald at General Mills going, okay, you're used to doing scratch cinnamon rolls. We have something that's individually wrapped. That'll take away from some of the hours needed and time needed that wouldn't normally go to it, right? Like, have those open dialogue, that open conversation.
And Cheryl, I want to make sure, have you and Michaela been in contact?
I am not the menu planner, I'm the director. So Sarah has kept me abreast of everything that's going on with US Foods and with Gordon's, and then our private, our local vendor. So that was one of the things I heard from another director this week, and I thought it would just be warrant to say it in this meeting because it is an issue. I see it, I hear it, but I don't know if anyone's reached out to Sarah. She hasn't told me differently.
Okay, your menu coordinator's name is Sarah
Sheridan.
Sheridan. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that Michaela covers a lot of our school districts north of Atlanta. I'll make sure Michaela connects with Sarah and with you and know, like, my contact, like, you can reach out to me anytime, and we're going to make sure we take care. You guys are great customers, and make sure you guys are taken care of, and we're partnering.
Well,
I think that some of you may have experienced some things with your USDA entitlement. I'm not sure. Another director reached out to me this week saying that they had been canceled all of a sudden. I know we had that happen, but they're in a smaller district and it really is going to be impactful on them. And then the monies that they were hoping to put towards something else actually reduced because the prices went up. So I just encouraged her to get with her area consultant to let Dr. Dodson know, Dr. Peavy, so that we can make those contacts with the USDA side of the program, because that is important. Let me share with you what we do in Polk County when we have English is not the first language. We hire in the nutrition program. You have to have at least a GED or high school diploma. When we have a person who would like to work with our program, we will hire them as a monitor, cafeteria monitor in the lunchroom, and that particular position does not require a high school diploma or GED. However, we work with those families who might be interested in seeking that high school diploma or GED. We work with parent liaisons and our translators to get with the local Lanier Tech College and get them in the program they need to get that, so that when we do have an opening, they can come on board with us. So we're just trying to do everything we can to help our community.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think it's that sort of creativity that's going to drive the success of the school nutrition program moving forward. There's been so much goodwill shown back towards school nutrition, right? Like I think you've all have heard me talk about it at this point. School nutrition has never been held in a higher regard than it is right now, right? And so I think continuing to build off that momentum, that excitement, that engagement within the community, I think will be exceptionally valuable, because we are coming to a fork in the road, right? Like I don't want to be the one, always saying the sky's falling, but the reality is there are competitive forces and challenges that are on the horizon that will affect every school nutrition program in the future. And I think the more that we can show the continued sustainability and the continued importance and role that school nutrition plays in communities, I think the better we're going to be for it. So thank you everybody for your participation in this roundtable. I love this forum. I love the opportunity to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions and to group think this sort of thing. And so if there's ever anything else that you want to put out there or share, I'll be happy and thrilled to facilitate. But again, I think we're all in this together, and which really from my perspective makes school nutrition so great is y'all aren't competing against one another. Like Cheryl, you're not competing against Penny, right? And so it's okay to share trade secrets. What makes it tough is, when we're looking at like the ACF, right? There's some level of competition there. There's some challenges around, like, I don't want to share too much. Like, we don't have that. This is the brilliant thing. So don't be afraid to share. And I know none of you aren't, that's why you're here. But again, if there's anything that we can do to facilitate that information getting out, don't hesitate to reach out to me, either in my role at CGA or my role with the GSNA. I'll be happy to facilitate on either front.
That sounds great, Corey. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you to our industry partners and all of my sisters and brothers out there in school nutrition director land. It's awesome to see you guys, and I can't wait till we can come back together.
Well, no, I'm messing this up here, trying to this.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
think
very
the
much.
important thing is here, while Corey's working on that, is to know that you're not alone in this situation, and don't be afraid to ask questions, pick up the phone. Like I said, call, text, if you need to send that email and say, hey, you know what, I need help. I think that's important for your programs. I think that's important for your mental health, to know that you're not alone in any of this. And whether that's Corey, your distributors, the ACF, we're all here to help listen and to help solve your issues. So thank you. Thank you all for letting us take a part today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. The recording will be available tomorrow morning. I'll try to get it out to everybody. But again, anything y'all need, we're all here for you. Thank you to Polly. Thank you to Dr. Dotson. Thank you, Emerald. Thank you for everyone participating and being open with your thoughts. We appreciate it. Everybody take care, stay safe.
Happy back to school.
Thank you.
Happy back to school. We'll see you guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all letting me listen in.
Of course, Turner. You go take that back to Alabama. Show those folks how we do it in Georgia.
Yeah, well, I will.